Hey everyone, it's Dale, and today we're going to talk about the terminology and the strategy that we're going to use moving forward throughout the entire semester in terms of creating quality content and the strategies that we'll be using. And here's where Gary Vaynerchuk's book comes into play. So, as I mentioned on the first day, this is not a textbook by any means, it is more of a spirit guide. We're going to be using his terminology and his ideology in terms of creating that quality content. And a lot of it we're going to focus on strictly today. So you'll notice you need to read chapters 1 and 2. I'll give the same reminder that I gave you on the first day. If you come across something that's out of date or something that is no longer relevant, you'll probably spot pretty quickly a couple of things. Just move on. We're looking for the big picture type stuff in the book, and I still think it holds up to that point. So, as you can probably guess from the title of the book, Gary frames things in terms of boxing, and you don't have to worry if you don't enjoy boxing. I don't particularly enjoy boxing, but it does help us understand the different types of content and the different types of content we'll need in order to succeed on social. So, the two main pieces of terminology that we're going to be using over and over and over again. The first one is the jab. And so in boxing, a jab is just a light punch. You're not going to knock anyone out with a jab, although that one might hurt. But these are just the little hits that are setting up the big one. All right, so think of jabs in terms of that. Jabs are the lightweight pieces of content that benefit your customers by making them laugh, snicker, ponder, play a game, feel appreciated, or escape. Those are Gary's words. So this is like the everyday content, right? This is the stuff, or at least the everyday content that we should be making. We're not selling anything. We're not asking customers to do anything. We're just simply sharing a bit of information or telling a joke or sharing a funny picture or sharing a cool picture, a video, whatever it is. These are those daily lightweight pieces of content. Here are a couple of examples from some brands. The far left, this was a snap from Texas Parks and Wildlife. You can see they're not saying, come out today to the park to come join us. They were just, it was right after some heavy rains. And so they were just simply sharing some video from the scene and asking, is this safe to cross? On the right, probably my favorite Instagram brand, and I mentioned them in our brand awareness or brand analysis. Camping with Dogs has a ton of great images of dogs just simply out camping. So that's fantastic. And then this was a video from Adidas in the middle. You can see the post just says practice patience, proving people wrong. Tori Bowie doesn't feel pressure, she applies it, and it's a video of her out running. Now, it's not saying you have to go buy Adidas in order to run like her, but it is kind of implying that, right? So I want you to see the difference of that. But as of that post, it is not issuing a call to action in order to go buy anything. So these would all be examples of jabs, stuff that you would see every day on a brand account. So jabs are the first type of social content, and the second type is the right hook. So the right hook is that punch that's going to knock you out, okay? So in terms of marketing or journalism, and you wouldn't technically be knocking people out, but what you would be doing is issuing a call to action that would benefit your business. So you are now asking the viewer or the consumer to do something based on your post. So when we talk about a call to action, again, that's the blatant visit our website today to get the coupon code, or, go see this movie Friday when it opens in theaters, things along those lines. Those are calls to action. 3 keys for a call to action. 1, they must be simple and easy to understand. You've probably seen some brands that have a call to action that is insanely difficult. Go to our website, click on this, then click on this, then enter in your email address, then click on this, and then we'll send you a coupon 5 days later. And like, no, good Lord, I'm not going to do that. Okay, call to action need to be simple and easy to understand. They need to be crafted for mobile. We have to remember that people are going to be using their phones to view our content most of the time. So if your call to action involves a link or a QR code, the link needs to be active. A QR code, remember what JS said, we should use them at all, because if we're viewing it on mobiles, no one can click or scan that QR code with their phone while they're viewing it on mobile. Plus, again, I just question QR codes in general. So keep that in mind. And then we have to respect the different nuances of the different networks. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. Here are a couple of right hooks from brands. This is a fitness trainer on the left. You can see she's offering a discount for this particular type of photo form. I'm obviously not a fitness person, so I'm not quite sure. But she's a friend, so I follow her. But you can see she's saying go buy this, and you can use the coupon code. In the middle, REI, one of my favorite brands. They are very clearly selling that brand new backpack. And then on the right, I've mentioned Big Ben Brewing before. They have the advantage of having cool backdrops in almost all of their photos. And you can see the call to action here is the tap room will now be open Wednesday from Friday to 4 to 6, Saturdays from 1 to 3. Tours will be Saturdays 1 to 3. Come by and join us. Wash down those West Texas days. So again, all three of these are asking the viewer or the consumer to do something. So we're going for that right hook. And again, in boxing terms, the knockout would be having them convert, or you converting them into whatever it is you're trying to get them to do with that call to action. So let's stop and take a step back and think, what do users want more of when they are looking for social content? Do they want jabs or do they want right hooks? Hopefully the answer came to mind. You would probably want jabs, right? When brands just constantly try to sell us something, it gets annoying. We tend to unfollow, things along those lines. But what do brands focus on most? Hopefully or if you're being realistic and keeping it real, brands focus on the right hooks all the time. They ignore the jabs, which you have to add those jabs in order to set up the right hook. So when we talk about content, and we're really going to focus, these can be both jabs and right hooks. We're just talking about content in general. There are 6 main characteristics that Gary has in the book regarding great content. And we're going to go through each of these individually. One is that it's native, it doesn't interrupt, it doesn't make demands often or a lot. It leverages pop culture, it's micro, and it's consistent. So let's go through each of these and talk about what they mean. So the first one is great content is native. And what Gary and myself and many others believe with this is that you have to respect those nuances of each individual network. JS talked about this as well. The same content or content on Facebook may not necessarily work on Twitter. Content from Instagram may not necessarily work on Snapchat, and things along those lines. So the last thing you ever want to do is just simply link your accounts, your Facebook to your Twitter, or your Twitter to your Facebook, or your Instagram to your Facebook, even though it's pretty much okay because they talk and the posts still seem native. But we do have some problems with Instagram to Facebook. Instagram usernames on Instagram will not show up on Facebook. So even that, we have to be careful with the content we post. When you're posting on Facebook, you should post to Facebook. And when you're posting on Twitter, you should write that post geared toward Twitter. Okay? So remember, it respects the different platforms and their different types of content and the different consumers on those types of content. Gary says these differences are not minor. Putting the wrong kind of content on a platform will doom your marketing effort. So again, you have to, you might have the same basic idea for a post, but you're going to write that Facebook post differently than you'll write the Twitter post, than you'll write the Instagram post, or how you'll write the snap. Okay. The second one is it doesn't interrupt. And the last thing we want to do as a brand is do this, make our grand entrance into the news feed, right? Really, we should be trying to fit in as much as possible. So just think about your own habits in terms of social. It's probably not good when brands are standing out because that's probably going to be a bad thing. Now, sometimes it's a good thing, but most of the time, if you notice a brand on your feed, that probably means they're asking for too much. So Gary says, whatever experience people are seeking on their preferred platforms, that's what marketers should attempt to replicate. So again, we should be trying to fit in and fit into the stream, fit into the news feed so that they're seeing our content, but we're not necessarily interrupting their day. All right. We're not coming across as advertisements or a break in their action. We want to just fit in. Great content doesn't make demands often. So you hopefully have gotten this sense that we should be doing more jabs than right hooks. The right hooks are the ones that make demands. That doesn't mean we can never have right hooks, but we should be setting them up with a bunch of jabs. If we have nothing but right hooks, your content's not going to be effective. So really, we should have our audience stop back and think when we do make a demand and the customer converts on it, they should be stopping and like, whoa, what just happened here, right? Because it is really effective when it works well. And again, like I said, if you are constantly asking people to do something, they're going to end up unfollowing you probably. You're not going to be making those sales or those conversions, or you're not getting them to click on your links, whatever it is you're asking them to do. So we should keep those demands to few and far between. It might take your consumer a split second before he or she realizes that the story he's paying attention to is being told by a brand, not an individual. Again, we're trying to fit in, and we don't want our brand to stick out in a bad way. We don't want to constantly be asking for something, and so that's why it's important. Quality social content leverages pop culture. So there's a fine line between looking cool, as this famous meme is, or standing out like this, right? And most of the brands that end up trying to leverage pop culture end up looking like this, as opposed to the Joe Biden meme. So we have to be careful with leveraging pop culture. But Gary says, create content that reveals your understanding of the issues and news that matter most to them. So again, I will issue this big warning right here. Brands try to do this all the time. Most of the time it fails. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to leverage pop culture. You should. JS even talked about how, the first thing he does every day is check the trending topics to see if there's some way Texas State can fit in. We'll be doing that with our clients as well. But we have to be careful, just think of the DiGiorno's example again. Like, we have to know what those hashtags are. We have to know if our posts are going to come across as insensitive or rude. We have to, realize if we're going to come across as we're trying too hard, things along those lines. So look for ways to leverage pop culture, but don't do it every day and don't try too hard, right? There's a fine line between showing an understanding of pop culture and trying way too hard. That's my one thing against Whataburger. I think Whataburger tries too hard sometimes, but I know y'all love Whataburger, so I won't keep going. But some brands try way too hard at times, and it comes across almost as desperate. And so just be careful when leveraging pop culture. Quality content on social is micro. What we mean by that is it's small, right? If you have to sit there and put weeks into that one perfect Facebook post, you're never going to succeed on social, because really the idea behind social is these are small, I hate the word snackable, but these are small snackable bites of content, and we should be concentrating on getting them out on a regular basis, and they should be consumable very quickly. There's no reason for marketers to draft new overarching social media campaigns every year. Everyone's should be as simple as this: jab at people all the time, every day, talk what they're talking about. When they talk about something different, talk about that instead. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, so this is Gary's mantra right here. We should be jabbing all the time. Those jabs are small little pieces of content that we should fit in. Some might leverage pop culture, but we shouldn't be demanding of people all the times. And, again, they're small. These aren't essays on social, Twitter especially. We only have 140 characters. So don't worry about a ton of content here, right? A lot of times if it's an image or a video, the image or video is going to be where the message really comes across. You may have very little text on that anyway. So remember, great content is micro. And then the final one is it's consistent. And what I mean by consistent is we should have that brand voice or that brand identity across the board. JS brought this up again in class. He wants a post to come across the same whether he's writing it or whether his student worker is writing it. And that's the way it should be with all brands. This doesn't always happen though, because some of these brands have a ton of people working for them, or a newsroom might have 10 people working on the social desk, and it's really hard to get everyone on the same page in terms of talking or coming across with that same voice or identity. It's a skill that is learned, and that's something we'll be working on this semester. Style guides can help with this, so I will be expecting y'all to use that. Consulting with the client will help too. Knowing what type of voice or identity they want to come across is important, and then just simply looking at the content they're already creating, you will get a sense of how they want to come across, and we can talk with the client regarding hey, we see that you're going this way. Is that really the way you want to go, or is there a different type of voice you want to have? So keep those things in mind when you're writing content for the client, that you need it to come across as consistent with their voice. So no matter how you tell your story, your personality and brand identity must remain constant too. It's so important. It's really jarring when you have a brand issue a message that doesn't sound like the brand. And that means they either hired a new person or someone just simply missed the boat. And it can be bad. So we have to have that consistent brand voice across the board. Okay, so that's it for quality content and strategy. Remember, go read chapters 1 and 2 of the book. Like I said, if you come across something that's a little out of date, just move on. We're looking for the big picture ideas and strategies with the first couple chapters of this book. So you'll get much more in depth on the points that we already talked about, and you'll be expected to know that stuff for the midterm. So enjoy the first couple chapters of the book. It's an easy read, and we'll see you down the road.